Mark Wahlberg sat at the end of the view's long table, shoulders squared like he was bracing for a fight he hadn't planned but wasn't about to dodge either. Whoopi Goldberg sat opposite him, her note cards spread neatly in front of her. Joy Behar twirled a pen between her fingers like it might keep her grin glued on. The lights above felt warm, but the hush in the audience pressed cold enough that every seat leaned forward. Whoopi started it soft, her voice wrapped in that velvet she used when she wanted the tension to stay friendly. Mark Wahlberg, thanks for being here. Big movie coming out, a lot of buzz, but lately, a lot of talk about your comments on faith and politics. You stand by all that. Mark's jaw flexed once. His voice came out calm, a deep steadiness that made the hush lean closer. I stand by telling the truth, Whoopi. That's the part people forget. Joy chuckled, but it scraped short. Mark, you know how this works. You make a movie, you sell it. You don't alienate half the people who pay for your ticket. Mark's stare shifted to her, the corner of his mouth twitching but not enough to be a smile. Or you keep your soul and trust the people who want more than spin. A cough cracked the hush from somewhere near the back row. Sunny Hostin jumped in, her tone quick, trying to smooth it over. No one's asking you to lose your soul, Mark. But when you speak out about faith, politics, guns, you know it sets people off. Mark leaned forward, elbows on the table. Maybe people need to be set off. Maybe that's how you wake up. Whoopi's smile flickered. She tapped her cards, her voice sharpening just enough to break the velvet. You're saying people here are asleep? Mark didn't blink. I'm saying too many people clap for things they'd never live by. The hush pulled tighter. The lights overhead felt hotter than the coffee mug in front of him. Joy pointed her pen like a gavel. Oh, come on, Mark. You sit here, millionaire, former bad boy turned preacher, telling regular folks they're hypocrites. His voice dropped lower, so Comet made the hush bend closer to catch every word. Not the folks. The ones paid to act like they care. Someone near the aisle sucked in a breath. A shoe tapped once, then stilled. Whoopi leaned forward, her elbows hitting the table with a soft thud. Say what you mean, Mark. Who's the hypocrite here? Mark's jaw tightened. His words didn't rise, but the hush felt them hit anyway. Anyone who sits here telling people how to live when they don't live it themselves. Joy's grin cracked. So that's us, huh? You calling this table hypocrites? Mark leaned back, just slightly, arms crossed. If the shoe fits. The hush didn't break. It just braced for the crack that was coming next. Joy Behar's pen slipped from her fingers and rolled across the table. Nobody bothered to pick it up. The audience stayed frozen. Every head tipped forward like they were afraid to cough over what might come next. Whoopi Goldberg's hands flattened on her note cards, her voice sharp enough to snap the air. Mark, you've made mistakes. You've said that yourself. You've asked for forgiveness for your past. So who are you to sit here and judge us? Mark's eyes didn't waver. His tone stayed steady. The hush made sure not a word got lost. I'm not judging the past. I'm calling out the present. Sunny Hostin's voice came in like a warm towel tossed over a fire, but it didn't smother the heat. Nobody at this table pretends to be perfect, but we do talk about accountability. That's our job. Mark's jaw flexed once. Talking about it and living it aren't the same thing. A soft rippled from the back row, but nobody laughed. Nobody clapped either. Joy forced a brittle laugh. So what, Mark? You think you're some moral hero now? The big tough guy who came here to lecture the view? Mark's smile came cold, a flicker that made the hush shiver. No hero, just tired of seeing people clap for things they'd never do if the camera wasn't on. Sarah Haynes cleared her throat, her voice low, careful like she was trying to keep the table from tipping. People tune in because they trust us to say what they're thinking. That counts for something. Mark's stare turned on her, soft, but the edge stayed. They trust you because they want to believe you'd stand for it when the lights go out. Whoopi's chair creaked as she leaned back. You think you're the only one who stands for something? Mark's tone dropped lower. I think you stand for whatever keeps this table spinning. Someone near the front row whispered, he's gonna walk, but the hush clamped it down fast. Joy slammed her palm on the table. You come here, use our platform, and insult us to our faces. Mark leaned in now, elbows on the table, voice so quiet it made the lights feel 10 times hotter. You invited me. Don't get mad when the truth shows up with me. The hush braced tight, like every seat wanted to shift, but nobody dared. Whoopi's grin slipped for good. Her voice hit hard enough to rattle the mugs on the table. You want to storm off, Mark? Go ahead. Walk out. But don't pretend you're the only honest one in this room. Mark's eyes narrowed just slightly, the hush catching every breath. If you were honest, you wouldn't be so afraid to hear it. The lights buzzed overhead. The band didn't dare touch a note. Joy's words came out cold. Then say it. Say what you really mean. Mark's jaw tightened. I mean, you're all hypocrites when the cameras stop. The hush didn't break. It just bent under the weight of what everyone knew he wasn't done saying yet. Joy Behar's pen lay on the floor where it fell, forgotten under the studio lights that suddenly felt too bright to hide behind. Whoopi Goldberg's arms crossed tight over her cards. Her eyes locked on Mark Wahlberg like she was daring him to blink first. He didn't. Sarah Haynes leaned forward, voice softer than the hush wanted her to be. Mark, nobody's perfect. You say people are clapping for fake promises. What are you doing up here then? Selling a movie, right? Mark's stare shifted to her, his jaw set, but his tone stayed calm enough to sting. Selling a movie doesn't mean I sell my soul with it. A cough cracked the hush. Someone in the middle row whispered, "This is real," but no one dared to giggle it off. Sunny Hostin folded her hands on the table, her voice clipped but careful. You think you're the only one who sacrifices for the truth? We risk our reputations every day. Mark's eyes narrowed. You risk a headline. You don't risk losing what you can't buy back. Whoopi's chair creaked as she sat up straighter, her words colder now. That's enough. You want to call us hypocrites, fine. But don't you dare stand here and act like you're the only one who's changed. Mark leaned forward, elbows planted, the hush holding each word like it weighed more than the table. Changed is good. Changed is fine. But don't preach what you won't live when the lights cut off. Joy snapped back in, her laugh sharp as glass. And you're better? You've got your past. You've got your mistakes. Mark didn't flinch. Yeah, and I own mine. Out loud. Not just when it makes a good headline. A man in the back row let out a low damn, but the hush clamped it down before it could grow. Sarah's voice cracked, trying to reel it in. So what do you want us to do, Mark? Sit here and just nod while you call us liars. Mark's tone dropped to a whisper that carried further than any shout. I want you to stop acting surprised that people see through it. Whoopi leaned across the table, her hand smacking her cards to the floor. You think you're some martyr? You think people will remember you for this? Mark's smile flickered, but it was cold. I don't care if they remember me. I care if they remember the lie. The hush pulled tighter. The band didn't dare play. The lights didn't blink. Joy's voice rose, brittle but loud. Then go. Walk off if you're so sick of it. Go preach your truth somewhere else. Mark's jaw set. He didn't stand yet. He just let the hush hold him there, like the truth was burning slow through every seat. No, he said, so quiet it snapped the air sharper than a scream. You'll have to watch me leave. And the hush braced, because everyone knew he meant it. Mark Wahlberg sat frozen at the end of that polished table, his elbows locked, his stare pinning every word in place so the spin had nowhere left to run. Whoopi Goldberg's arms were still crossed, her note cards forgotten on the floor. Joy Behar tapped her foot against her chair leg, like she was waiting for the floor to open up and swallow them all. Sarah Haynes tried again, her voice careful, softer than the hush wanted it to be. Mark, you can't expect people to hear you if you're just throwing punches. If you really care, you'd stay and talk it through. Mark's jaw flexed, but his voice didn't rise. It dropped lower, steady enough to make the hush bend in closer. Talking's cheap when you're not willing to lose your seat for it. Sunny Hostin leaned in, her tone sharp enough to cut. And you think storming out makes you brave? You think you're proving something? Mark's eyes flicked to her, calm, but cold as stone. It proves I don't need to sit at a table that sells the truth for applause. Someone in the back row let out a soft gasp. The hush snapped it up before it could grow. Joy's laugh slipped out, cracked at the edges. You act like we're the enemy. We're asking the questions nobody else will. Mark's smile came and went in half a second. A ghost of warmth turned ice. You ask the questions that won't cost you anything. Whoopi's chair squeaked as she shifted forward, voice flat as iron. So you think you're better than every guest who's come here, every person who sat here, trying to make sense of this world? Mark's reply came slow, softer than before, which only made it land harder. No, Whoopi. I just won't sit here pretending I care more about this seat than the people who watch from their kitchen tables. The hush braced tighter. No applause, no laugh track. Just the weight of everyone hearing the spin split open. Sarah's hands pressed flat on the table. Then what? You walk out. You give them the headline you wanted. Mark leaned back, shoulders squared. The headline they need. So they remember what it looks like when someone stands up instead of nodding along. Joy scoffed, voice high and bitter. So go. Go be a hero. They'll forget you tomorrow. Mark's stare didn't flinch. That's fine. Just don't forget I said it. He pushed his chair back, slow enough that the scrape of the legs across the studio floor felt like a gavel hitting marble. The front row didn't move. The band didn't dare play him off. The hush just wrapped tighter around the last words they knew were coming. Whoopi's voice came out, low but shaking. You walk now. Don't you dare come back. Mark's shoulders squared as he stood. Don't worry. I don't sit at tables that lie to stay warm. And the hush cracked, not with claps, not with cheers, but with that raw silence that sticks when you know the spin just died for good. Mark Wahlberg stood there a moment longer, his chair angled away from the table, now like it was the last thing in the room, still trying to keep him seated. Whoopi Goldberg's arms stayed folded, her eyes locked on him like she wanted one last line to cut him down, but none came. Joy Behar's pen lay under the table, forgotten. Sarah Haynes pressed her hands so tight against the edge of the desk her knuckles went white. A woman in the front row shifted, her breath caught in her throat when Mark leaned forward just enough for every seat to catch his words. You're gonna sit here tomorrow, Mark said, voice low enough that the hush had to lean in or lose him, and you'll say you care. You'll say you fight for the truth. But the truth costs something. And you don't pay the bill, the people watching do. A murmur cracked from the aisle, a cough, a quiet, he's right. But the hush swallowed it whole before the spin could bury it. Whoopi's jaw worked like she might spit something back, but her tongue caught on the words. The lights above seemed hotter now, every beam turning the table into something too bright to hide behind. Joy tried one last laugh, sharp, empty. So this is your big stand, huh? You storm off, and we're all the villains. Mark didn't even glance at her. He looked at the crowd instead, eyes soft, steady, no grin, no punchline. Don't clap for people who say what you want to hear. Watch what they do when you're not clapping. A man in the back row whispered, damn, and didn't bother to hide it this time. Sonny Hostin's voice cut through, a last rope thrown out, but too frayed to hold. People trusted you once, Mark. You were the tough guy who found faith, the underdog who made good. This is just cheap. Mark's stare turned to her, not angry, not smug, just tired of the spin. Cheap is sitting here nodding while people outside the studio keep paying for your comfort. Whoopi's chair scraped the floor when she stood, her hands pressed to the table. Get out. You don't get to sit here and call us hypocrites and pretend you're the only one who cares. Mark stepped back from the table, shoulders squared. Then do it. Care for real. Not for the camera. The hush bent, then snapped. No applause, no polite exit music, just the drag of Mark's chair and the tap of his boots across the glossy studio floor. He didn't look back. He didn't wave. He didn't sell it like a stunt. He just left the spin behind him, cracked wide enough for the people in the cheap seats to see what it cost. Whoopi stood frozen, Joy's grin gone for good. Sarah's hands pressed white-knuckled on the table as the hush lingered like a final line no one had the courage to say. Some people keep the lights on because the truth can't survive the dark. Some people stand up and walk away so the lie doesn't get one more round of polite applause. And sometimes the only sound louder than a storm is the hush it leaves behind.